Woman of God, don't you dare confuse your solitude with abandonment. Just because you are walking alone does not mean you are walking without destiny. You've been crying, asking, Lord, why me? Why this lonely road? Why this silence? But I came to tell you today, God has an unseen plan. A plan you cannot see, but a plan that is already unfolding. Hear me. The silence is not punishment, it's preparation. The solitude is not rejection, it's redirection. And when people walk out of your life, don't curse them, because God's unseen hand is guiding you into the very place where He is about to reveal His glory. Somebody shout, God's got a plan! Solitude is not a curse, it is a classroom. It is the place where God begins to strip away the noise, the chatter, the constant opinions of people, and allows you to hear the still small voice that guides your destiny. Too often, we run from being alone because we confuse solitude with loneliness. Loneliness says, I am empty, I am abandoned, I have no one. But solitude says, I am being trained, I am being equipped, I am being sharpened. There is a difference. When you are in solitude, heaven is writing lessons in your spirit that cannot be taught in crowds, that cannot be taught in celebrations, that cannot be taught in applause. Think about it. A student learns the deepest lessons not at the graduation ceremony, but in the quiet classroom, when the teacher writes on the board, when there is silence, when there is focus. God does the same thing with your spirit. He doesn't always teach you on the mountaintop. He teaches you in the desert. He doesn't always mold you in the palace. He molds you in the pit. The classroom of solitude is where you discover not who people say you are, who God created you to be. Look at the greats of scripture and history. Moses had 40 years in the backside of the desert before he ever stood before Pharaoh. Those weren't wasted years, those were classroom years. David was alone with sheep in the field before he ever faced Goliath. Those were not wasted nights. Those were nights when the stars became his ceiling and worship became his weapon. Jesus himself went into the wilderness for 40 days before he ever stepped into public ministry. If the Son of God needed solitude as a classroom, why do we despise ours? Sometimes God will pull you away from people not to punish you, but to protect His deposit in you. A seed must be buried before it can break forth. If you leave it exposed, it gets trampled, it gets eaten, it gets stolen. But when you hide it in the soil, you give it a chance to grow roots. That's what God is doing with you in solitude. He is growing roots so that when the winds blow, when the storms rage, you don't get toppled over. Everybody wants the fruit, but nobody wants the roots. And roots are always developed in dark, quiet, hidden places. Think about your own life. There were times you wanted friends to understand you, but they didn't. You wanted people to validate you, but they couldn't. You wanted company, but all you got was silence. What you thought was rejection was actually God enrolling you in a higher level of His school. He was saying, daughter, I'm going to teach you to stand without applause. I'm going to show you how to fight without cheerleaders. I'm going to prove to you that my presence is enough. A solid teaches you discipline. Look at the athlete who trains in the early hours of the morning, running when no one is watching, lifting weights when no one is clapping. By the time the crowd sees the game, the work has already been done in private. That's why solitude is your training ground. When you pray alone, when you cry alone, when you wrestle with your doubts alone, heaven is strengthening your muscles. That is where character is built. That is where your faith stops being borrowed and starts being personal. Solitude teaches you clarity. Think about your phone. When too many apps are open, the battery drains quickly. Sometimes you need to shut down everything else so the system can recharge. God does the same with us. He will shut down unnecessary voices, necessary distractions, unnecessary relationships so that you can hear His instruction clearly. Solitude is when the clutter gets removed, when the fog clears, when His voice becomes undeniable. Solitude teaches you trust. It is easy to believe when everybody is patting you on the back, when doors are flying open, success is overflowing. But when you are alone, when prayers seem unanswered, when silence is heavy, this is when you learn to trust. You learn to say, even when I don't feel Him, He is here. Even when I don't see a way, He is making a way. Even when people walk out, my God walks in. That level of trust cannot be taught in crowds. It is only learned in solitude. Think about the caterpillar transform into a butterfly in a crowd. It goes into a cocoon, isolated, wrapped up, hidden. People may pass by and see nothing but a shell. Inside there is transformation happening. That is solitude. It is your cocoon season. People may think you are stagnant. People may assume you are finished, but God is working on your wings. And when the time is right, you will emerge with colors you didn't even know you carried. Solitude teaches you to hear yourself again. When life is busy, when people are loud, when you're constantly responding to needs, you forget your own voice. But in solitude, you start hearing the cry of your own soul. You rediscover your passions, your calling, your strength. Sometimes God removes the noise so you can realize you are stronger than you thought, wiser than you believed, and more resilient than you imagined. And solitude teaches you intimacy with God. It's where you learn to lean on Him, not just for blessings, not just for miracles, but for companionship. When you sit in silence and say, God, I'm here, that's when He whispers, daughter, I'm here too. It's in those sacred moments when tears fall on the pillow and no one sees that you realize you are never truly alone. That's the power of God's classroom of solitude. People leaving your life is not always the tragedy you think it is. Sometimes it is God's protection dressed up as rejection. We cry, we mourn, we beg people to stay. What we do not realize is that the very ones who walked out were the very ones who could not walk with us into the future. God knows things about people that you don't know. He hears conversations you never heard. He sees hearts you could not see. He knows intentions that were never spoken. So when He allows someone to leave, it is not because you were not good enough. It is because His plan was too great for their presence. Think about the job you thought you wanted so badly, the one that slipped through your fingers. Time you thought, God, why would you let this happen? But months later you discover the company went bankrupt, or the environment was toxic, or the position would have kept you trapped. That was not rejection, that was protection. God closed the door to keep you safe, to keep you aligned, to keep you moving toward His will. People leaving is often God's way of pruning. A gardener knows that if you want a tree to bear fruit, you must cut off certain branches. It looks painful, it looks like loss, but the pruning is actually what makes room for more fruit to grow. When friends you trusted fade away, when relationships you invested in collapse, when people you leaned on suddenly disappear, it feels like betrayal. God says, I am pruning you because what I have for you requires stronger branches, clearer vision, deeper roots. Without pruning, fruit would never come. Consider Joseph. His own brother sold him into slavery. Imagine the heartbreak, the betrayal, the tears. If Joseph had stayed in his father's house, he would never have reached Pharaoh's palace. What looked like rejection was actually redirection. God was protecting Joseph from being confined to a small destiny when he had a kingdom-sized assignment ahead. Every betrayal, every goodbye, every door slammed in his face was God moving him closer to the throne. Sometimes the people who leave are the very ones who would have destroyed you had they stayed. Think about a toxic relationship where you gave everything, your time, your love, your energy, only to be drained, manipulated, or abused. You cried when they left, but years later, you look back and say, thank God they walked away, because if they had stayed, I would have lost myself completely. That exit wasn't punishment, it was rescue. God knew the weight of their presence was too heavy for the wings He was giving you. People leaving teaches you dependence on God. We tend to cling to people as our source of security. We depend on their affirmation, their support, their companionship. But God sometimes has to remove them so we remember who our true source is. When that friend stopped calling, when that partner walked away, when that mentor turned their back, it hurt. But it also pushed you to lean into God in a way you never had before. You discovered that your peace doesn't come from who stays, but from who never leaves. Think about a plane. Before it takes off, must shed unnecessary weight. If it carries too much baggage, it cannot rise. God knows the altitude He is taking you to, and He knows some people cannot handle the pressure up there. Some are not equipped for the climb. Some would sabotage the flight. So when they walk out, it is not loss. It is God removing excess baggage so you can soar. People leaving also reveals the authenticity of relationships. When everything is going well, when money is flowing, when opportunities are plenty, people will surround you. But the moment storms hit, the moment your hands are empty, the moment you cannot offer them anything, watch who remains. Sometimes God allows certain people to leave in difficult seasons so you can discern who was with you for real and who was with you for what they could get. The departure exposes the truth, and though it stings, it saves you. Think about Ruth and Orpah in the Bible. Both started the journey with Naomi, but when the road got hard, Orpah turned back. Ruth stayed. The departure of Orpah wasn't rejection, it was revelation. It revealed who was assigned to Naomi's future and who was not. Don't mourn the Orpahs who turn away. Don't beg them to return. Their leaving is God's way of making sure the right people stay. Even in everyday life, think about friendships that dissolved. At first, you thought you couldn't live without them. You shared secrets, dreams, laughter. But then one day, distance came, words were exchanged, or silence fell. You grieved the loss, but over time, you noticed your spirit had more peace, your mind had more focus, and your heart had more room for what God was bringing next. That separation wasn't rejection. It was God removing distraction. Sometimes people leave not because they are bad, but because their season in your life is over. A teacher in grade school may be the most influential person in your early years, but you cannot carry them into college. Their assignment was for that season, not for the next. God designs relationships with seasons. Some stay for a lifetime, some stay for a moment, and some stay just long enough to plant a seed. When their season ends, their departure is protection from stagnation. So when someone leaves your life, instead of asking, "What did I do wrong?" start asking, "God, what are you protecting me from? What are you preparing me for?" Because what feels like rejection to your heart is often protection for your destiny. There are seasons in life when you feel invisible, unnoticed, overlooked, and forgotten. These are the hidden seasons. They are the times when your prayers seem unanswered, your efforts go unrecognized, your progress feels slow. But hidden does not mean abandoned. Hidden does not mean useless. Hidden simply means God is doing something underground that cannot be displayed just yet. Every great destiny must endure a hidden season before it ever walks into public power. Think about a seed. When it is planted in the soil, no one celebrates. No one gathers around to clap for it. In fact, it disappears. To the outside eye, it looks buried. But beneath the dirt, there is movement, there is life, there is transformation. Roots are being established that will one day support fruit. The seed must stay hidden long enough to grow strong. If it comes up too quickly, it will not survive. The same is true for you. Your hidden season is not punishment, it is preparation. Consider David. He was anointed by Samuel while still a boy, but after the oil poured, he went back to tending sheep. Imagine the frustration of knowing you are called to be king, but still feeding animals in the wilderness. He was hidden. No crown, no throne, no army, just sheep in solitude. But in that hidden place, he developed skills, how to protect, how to lead, how to worship. It was in the hidden fields that David learned how to fight lions and bears, so that when Goliath appeared, he was already prepared. His hidden season birthed his public power. In your own life, you may be in a season where nobody sees your efforts. You may be working late nights on a business no one knows about yet. You may be studying quietly while others are partying. You may be raising children in silence with no recognition for your sacrifices. It feels invisible. But those hidden sacrifices are developing strength, wisdom, and endurance that will one day shine publicly. Your private faithfulness will lead to public fruitfulness. Hidden seasons also build character. When no one is watching, who are you? When no one is applauding, do you still serve faithfully? When no one is praising, do you still pray passionately? Hidden seasons test motives. They strip away the desire for approval and force you to do things for the right reasons. Think of an athlete who trains in the gym when the stands are empty. The sweat, the pain, the discipline, none of it is seen by fans. When the competition comes, the hidden work becomes obvious. Victory is always decided long before the spotlight hits. Look at Joseph. His brothers threw him into a pit, sold him into slavery, and he was locked away in prison for years. From the outside, it looked like his life was wasted. In the hidden spaces of Potiphar's house and the king's prison, Joseph was learning administration, leadership, and stewardship. He was being shaped to handle a nation. If he had gone straight from the pit to the palace, he would have lacked the maturity to handle the weight of power. His hidden season birthed his public authority. Hidden seasons also strip away distractions. When God hides you, he is not just protecting you from others, he is protecting you from yourself. He is removing things that would derail your focus, temptations that would destroy your future, relationships that would dilute your strength. Sometimes he isolates you so that you can sharpen your vision. Think about a writer. They don't create masterpieces in a stadium full of people. They retreat into solitude, into quiet corners, into hidden hours of typing and rewriting. One day, the hidden words become a book that impacts thousands. The public power was birthed in hidden work. In everyday life, at a student preparing for exams, no one claps for the long nights of study, the scribbled notes, the countless hours of memorization. But on graduation day, the hidden years of effort burst into public celebration. Or think about a mother who spends sleepless nights rocking her baby, sacrificing her own rest, cleaning, feeding, praying over her child. No spotlight shines in those quiet hours. But years later, when that child succeeds, the hidden labor is revealed in public joy. Hidden seasons also deepen your reliance on God. When no one else sees you, when no one else affirms you, you learn to find your identity in him alone. You learn that his voice is enough. You learn to say, if no one else notices, God notices. If no one else celebrates me, heaven celebrates me. That unshakable confidence is what sustains you when the public spotlight finally comes. Because once God elevates you, critics will come, pressures will rise, and expectations will increase. Only someone who has been deeply grounded in hidden seasons can withstand public power. Even nature itself teaches this truth. The eagle doesn't soar immediately. It spends time in the nest, time in the shadows, time stretching its wings unseen. Butterfly doesn't appear in beauty without enduring the cocoon where it is hidden, unseen, unrecognized. But once the season shifts, what was hidden suddenly breaks forth with undeniable power. So when you find yourself in a season where it feels like no one sees you, no one values you, no one hears you, remember, hidden seasons are not wasted. They are sacred. They are the very ground where God is cultivating the roots of your greatness. One day, when the moment is right, when the stage is set, what was forged in the dark will shine in the light. Hidden seasons always birth public power. Your isolation is not your ending, it is your incubation. When you feel shut away, when the phone stops ringing, the crowd disappears, when invitations stop coming, that is not God discarding you, that is God developing you. Incubation is the sacred place where life grows unseen, where destiny matures quietly, where potential is shielded from premature exposure. If you ever look at how a baby develops in the womb, you will understand the power of incubation. The child is hidden, covered, protected, nourished in silence. No one can see the process happening, but month after month, life is forming. In the same way, your season of isolation is not evidence of failure. It is proof that something alive is growing inside of you. Too many of us mistake isolation for abandonment. We say, why has everyone left me? Why do I feel forgotten? Why does it seem like life has moved on without me? But think about a chick inside an egg. Before it breaks the shell, it is isolated. No one sees it, no one hears it. But the shell is not its prison. It is its protection. If that shell broke too soon, the chick would not survive. The shell gives it time to strengthen, to prepare, to be ready for the moment of breaking out. Your shell, your hiddenness, your isolation is the same. It is protecting you until you are strong enough to step into what God has for you. Consider Joseph when he was thrown into prison. From the outside, it looked like he was isolated, forgotten, wasting away. But inside that confinement, his gift of interpreting dreams was being sharpened. His character was being tested. His faith was being refined. When Pharaoh finally called him, Joseph didn't step out of prison unprepared. He stepped out ready. The prison was his incubator. The place that looked like his end was really the place that birthed his new beginning. Think about your own life. Maybe you feel cut off from friends. Maybe you're in a season where no one understands your vision. Maybe you're battling challenges in silence. What if this is not punishment but preparation? If God is using your isolation to incubate resilience, wisdom, creativity, or strength that you would never discover if you were surrounded by noise. Some of the greatest inventions, books, songs, and ideas were born in solitude. It is often in isolation that creativity flourishes because distractions are removed and your spirit is forced to listen deeply. Take an everyday example, a woman who bakes bread. Before the dough becomes something nourishing, she places it in the oven. The oven is hot, the oven is enclosed, the oven is silent. It looks like the dough is trapped, but really it is transforming. The heat is necessary for it to rise. In the same way, isolation may feel uncomfortable. It may feel confining, but it is the very environment God uses to expand you. Without the oven, the bread remains dough. Without your isolation, you remain undeveloped. Your isolation is also a place of revelation. When you're alone, when you can't run to others for constant advice or validation, that's when you start to hear God more clearly. Moses encountered God in the solitude of the backside of the desert. Elijah heard God not in the earthquake, not in the fire, not in the wind, but in the still small voice after the storm. Jesus often withdrew to lonely places to pray. The most powerful revelations are often whispered in isolation because God finally has your full attention. Think about a college student who leaves home for the first time. At first, the dorm room feels lonely. The new city feels strange. The familiar safety net is gone. But it's in that isolation that the student learns independence, responsibility, and identity. Out that incubation period, they would never mature into adulthood. The discomfort of separation becomes the soil for growth. That is what God does with you. He allows isolation to teach you how to stand on your own 2 feet, to trust Him more deeply, to know who you are without needing constant approval from others. Isolation is also the breeding ground of strength. Look at the weightlifter in the gym. They spend hours training alone, pushing their limits, straining under pressure. No cameras are on them. No fans are cheering. It's just them, the weights, and the grind. But when competition day comes, strength built in isolation is revealed. That is exactly how your spiritual life works. God uses your private battles, your hidden struggles, your lonely nights to build muscles you didn't even know you had. And when the day comes for you to stand publicly, you will discover that your isolation gave birth to your power. Even in nature, this truth is written everywhere. A butterfly cannot skip the cocoon. Inside that tight, dark, solitary place, it struggles, it fights, it transforms. If someone tried to cut open the cocoon early, the butterfly's wings would never develop strength. It needs the resistance of isolation to prepare for flight. So when you feel confined, remember, it is in the pressing and the isolation that your wings are being formed. Sometimes God hides you because exposure too early would destroy you. If a gift is revealed before its time, it becomes mishandled. If a dream is exposed too soon, it can be crushed. That's why He shields you, places you in incubation, covers you until the right time. He is not denying your future. He is protecting it. The longer a diamond stays under pressure, the stronger its brilliance. The longer the seed remains in the soil, the greater its harvest. The longer the child is in the womb, the healthier the birth. Your isolation is not wasted time. It is the sacred chamber where God ensures you are fully ready for what is coming. You may have walked through fire. You may have cried rivers of tears. You may have wondered why life had to strip you down to silence and solitude. Hear me, nothing you went through was wasted. Every tear watered the seed of your destiny. Every heartbreak carved out room for greater love. Every lonely night was heaven's way of strengthening your backbone and sharpening your vision. What you thought was the end was really the setup. What looked like a breakdown was the birth canal of a breakthrough. You are not finished, you are not forgotten, and you are not forsaken. You are in the hands of a God who does not make mistakes. This is the moment where you stop asking, "Why me?" and start declaring, "Why not me?" Why shouldn't you be the one to rise out of ashes and show the world what resilience looks like? Why shouldn't you be the one who turns pain into power, sorrow into song, trials into triumph? You have survived what should have destroyed you. That survival is proof that there is more ahead. People may have left you, but they didn't take your destiny with them. Friends may have turned their backs. They couldn't cancel God's assignment on your life. Doors may have closed, but what is locked on earth, heaven can open with one word. Every great person you admire has walked through a lonely place. The crown is heavy, the calling is costly, the destiny is demanding. But those who refuse to give up, those who refuse to bow down, those who refuse to surrender, those are the ones who change generations. Nelson Mandela sat in a prison cell for 27 years, but the isolation of a man became the liberation of a nation. Oprah Winfrey was rejected and overlooked, but her hidden seasons prepared her to be a voice to millions. Even in Scripture, the same pattern repeats. Joseph in the prison became Joseph in the palace. Moses in the desert became Moses the deliverer. David with sheep became David the king. Jesus in the tomb became the risen Savior of the world. What they endured in silence, God revealed in glory. So lift your head high and square your shoulders. This is not the end of your story. This is the part where heaven is writing a chapter that generations will read. Don't waste time chasing who left. Don't waste energy replaying who betrayed you. Don't waste tears begging for what was never meant to stay. Walk forward knowing that if God removed it, you don't need it. If God shut it, it would have hurt you. If God delayed it, it was to protect you. His timing is not cruel. It is perfect. His ways are not random. They are intentional. His silence is not absence. It is strategy. There is a power rising in you that hell itself cannot stop. There is a strength in you that storms cannot drown. There is a fire in you that rejection cannot quench. The very fact that you are still here, still breathing, still listening, still hoping, still pressing is proof that the hand of God is on your life. You may feel hidden, but you are not forgotten. You may feel delayed. You are not denied. You may feel isolated, but you are incubating. Something greater is forming. Something stronger is coming. Something brighter is about to break forth. So declare it over yourself. I am not a victim. I am a victor. I am not broken. I am becoming. I am not empty. I am being filled. I am not abandoned. I am chosen. Say it until your spirit believes it. Say it until the atmosphere shifts. Say it until the chains of doubt fall off. You are stepping into a new season, one where the hidden will be revealed, one where the last shall be first, one where the rejected shall rise, one where the solitary shall shine. The world has not seen your best days yet. Your story is still unfolding. Your destiny is still alive, and your breakthrough is closer than you think.